and get to know everybody just a little bit. I got one more guest to let in. Hang on. So with that in mind, I ask you 3 questions: your year in school, your major, and why you took a course on entrepreneurship. And if you can come on camera, extra points for that, of course. We live in a world where it helps to show your beautiful smile. Okay, year in school, your major, and why you took this course. I'm going to call on you, Jorge Rivera, since you were the first one in. If you can get your mic to work, Jorge. Jorge's being shy. Okay. How about Anjana Shyam?
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, Jorge, give it a run, bud.
I'm here. My name is Jorge Rivera. I'm a ASU engineer student. Started in 2025 by pursuing a mechanical engineering leadership degree with the ASU team.
Excellent. And why did you take a course on entrepreneurship this summer?
This course is going to allow me to prepare myself for my communications with team members, as well as customers that I encounter on a daily basis.
Perfect. Great answer. Indeed, it will. The skills you're building in the construction of your pitch deck are invaluable for client communications. Now we'll go back to Anjana. I apologize on the last name. Again, your year in school, your major, and why you took a course on entrepreneurship. Great to see you, Jorge.
Thank you.
I'm going into my senior year of college. I'm an electrical engineering student, and I chose this course because it seemed like a fun elective that fulfilled a requirement. It was like a nice change of pace from my other classes.
So you're a senior. Do you plan to pursue any kind of entrepreneurship, or what do you want to do after you graduate?
I'm going straight into my master's.
Very smart. More engineering?
Yeah.
That will serve you well. Engineers make the world go round. But I promise you, Mike is testament to it as well. And we both have spent most of our careers in engineering-heavy organizations. And you need people like Mike to manage programs and me to manage marketing and communications. Engineers are the foundation of so much in our society, but you need all kinds of other smart people to make these organizations work. Last one before we jump into Mike's presentation. Anthony Brooks, your year in school, major, and why you took a course on entrepreneurship. It's over to you, Anthony.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my stuff to work. Electrical engineer. I'm in my last semester. This and the next one of my last semesters. And then I took this course because it was filling the requirement, but also I have read a couple of entrepreneurship books and like David Ramsey and stuff like that. So it just seemed interesting.
And are you enjoying it?
Yes, it's really difficult for me to like the building the pitch deck is not difficult. Having an idea to build a pitch deck around is actually difficult for me.
Yeah. And what you'll find is in the world of commerce, the idea is actually the easy part. It's the execution, and then getting people to pay you on time every month is even harder. I've worked at several small technology companies in the last decade, and you'd be shocked how many people procure a service, use it gratefully, and then conveniently forget to pay at the end of the month. With that said, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on camera, even though you're in your vehicle. Thank you, everyone, for being here on a Wednesday evening. We're going to hand it over now to a former colleague of mine. Mike and I worked for many years at Rolls-Royce, not the automaker, synonymous with unapologetic luxury, but the aircraft engine maker, synonymous with, keep us all safe in the air on both the commercial and military side. Mike and I worked on the military side, but Rolls-Royce also makes a lot of engines that are applied in civilian commercial aircraft. Mike worked on the program side, I in marketing and communications. What you'll find in your career as you go out there in the world is the relationships you build are every bit, if not more important than the skills you build. because they will lead you to your next job and to your next job, so on and so forth. And the skills are sometimes perishable, especially now in the world we live in with AI, all of a sudden, making so many things that are important feel perishable, if not pedestrian. So with that, I will turn over to Mike. He's going to share his screen and walk through his entrepreneurial journey since he's left the confines of corporate America.
Well, let's see if this works. Is it working, Brian?
It is. You're good to go.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, everyone. It's a joy to be here with everyone. Let me just move some things around here, Brian, so I can see the screen here. Okay, perfect. Hey, like Brian said, he's a good friend of mine. We spent a lot of time working together at Rolls-Royce. I learned a ton from Brian and amongst other people. So it's been a joy to kind of reconnect with him and explore some opportunities together. So when he asked me to do this, I thought I'm probably not the best person to do this for you guys, but yet here I am. The name of my slide deck here is Fire Your Boss, which is kind of the idea behind being an entrepreneur. And that's a funny word. My wife likes to say, I can't even pronounce the word very well, so I just have to chuckle at myself. But I would also say I'm an accidental entrepreneur. So some of you folks maybe have aspirations. I think Professor Mitchell has had aspirations to be an entrepreneur their whole life. That's not me, okay? That was not my intention. I never intended to be my own boss. And I'm going to kind of take you through that journey real quick to kind of walk you through how I got here. All right, and I think Brian, the context here is context, right? So I just wanted to give you some context. I think it's important for you to kind of know who you're speaking with. So this is me and my family here in the middle. There's my wife, Jamie. We've been married for 24 years. My daughter, Kate, my son, Tyler, and my future son-in-law, Colin, here to Kate's right. Colin's pursuing a degree in engineering like the most of you guys and gals, and is going to be an Army officer. And then my son is going to be an Army officer, going to ROTC at the University of Virginia. And then my daughter here, Kate, she just graduated from Purdue University. And she is pursuing a law degree at University of Connecticut. So very soon, Jamie and I are going to be empty nesters, right? So you may have heard, and I'll take you through my journey. I was a Marine for many, many years, and I've got a son and a future son-in-law that are going to be Army officers, and I tell them I'm not outnumbered. I think I got them. So I'm looking forward to that. And then up on the left is me and my son at the Michigan Basketball National Championship. He's had the privilege of watching a couple national championships, both in football and basketball, and that's a pretty special treat. And then finally, on the bottom left-hand corner, I'm fortunate to have a really good group of friends. And as you get older in life, that's been an important thing for us. That we've got some friends in our friend group. We live on a street called Acadia Court. I've got a speakeasy in my basement. That's a picture of us in the basement. And that's my Acadian Club dance team. So we got a good group of folks that we work together, that we dance together and just really enjoy life together. So it's been fun. All right. So I figured what I would do is just kind of take you through my journey, doing it in pictures. So this was the first time I've used AI here to do a presentation. So that slide deck that beginning slide on my slide deck that I put in some photos, and yet, no matter how many times I prompted AI to not make my face someone other than me, it wouldn't listen. It just did it. But here we are. This is actually pretty good. So here's my journey. I am from Detroit, Michigan. I'm the son of a blue collar auto worker whose father was a white collar guy. So he was a plant manager at Chrysler. Then my dad became a UAW guy at Chrysler, and 3 kids in the family, and didn't have a lot of money growing up. And the parents said, "Hey, you're going to go to college, so figure out how you're going to make that happen." And hey, folks, excuse me, I need to close my door because I got kids in the house and dogs in the house. I'm going to close the door real quick. so I can get some attention. Hang tight real quick. All right, thanks for your patience. I guess in the remote world, folks, you've got to use dogs and kids, but it's a little bit distracting. So anyways, long story short, as I was a kid growing up, trying to figure out how to college, a little placard, a little mailing that came to my house really changed my life. It was a apply to become a Marine Corps officer. And that was really, once I got that, I was a little bit, each of the services are unique and great in their own special accord. But that was my calling. I didn't know it until I saw that postcard. But I was a little bit brainwashed before I even went to the Marine Corps. I thought, well, heck, if I'm going to serve my country and I'm going to go into the service, I want to go into the most difficult one, the most challenging one, the hardest one to get through. And so that was the path that I chose. And they sent me to school at the University of Michigan. Now, I'll tell you, it's designed to make you quit. And there was times where I thought about quitting, but I didn't. I persevered and went through, ultimately got commissioned as a lieutenant in the Marine Corps. So kind of at the top of the river of life are some of my professions that I was at. And then on the bottom part of this chart, it's just kind of like life events that happened over the course of my life. All right. So, as I'm serving in the Marine Corps, this is all before 9/11. So pre 9/11, well before you guys' time. Serving, actually got stationed in Indiana where I met my wife. And as life would have it, so we'll talk about plans. As life would have it, I had a great plan, and I was right on course. And my plan was to go to business school at Purdue University. So it's right on plan. And then life throws a curveball at you, right? So my mom got sick with cancer. She ultimately passed away. But at that point in time, I had the option to go back to Michigan and help take care of her. So I left the Marine Corps literally a month before 9/11 happened. So I got off active duty, went back to Detroit. And, I had always thought when I went to the Marine Corps, I would eventually become, part of the auto industry in Detroit, because that's what everyone does. You're either part of one of the OEMs, Ford, Chrysler, GM, or you're one of the tier 1 or tier 2 or 3 suppliers. And for whatever reason, that wasn't what my opportunities were. I was really surprised and disappointed. I couldn't find my way into the auto industry. So I ended up going to a place called Cintas. You may have heard of them. They're uniform and facilities management. So as you journey through life, I would tell you, all of your experiences, you can take something from it. And my experience at Cintas was one that I took a lot from, but most of it wasn't positive. I learned a lot about what to do and really about what not to do. So just a really quick example, we would go out and negotiate contracts. I was a branch manager. We'd go out and negotiate contracts, and it was traded on the NASDAQ. So growth was a key aspect of what we were striving to achieve. And I'd negotiate a contract, and then 6 months later, we would do an arbitrary price increase on our client that I just negotiated with and told them it'd be good for a year. So it became really evident that that my life was not, my principles rather weren't consistent, or rather were incongruent with that company. And then I remember very distinctively sitting in a parking lot one day and thinking, oh my gosh, I've gone to this great university, I've become a Marine Corps officer, and this is all that I've achieved in life. And it was really a point of inflection. I was making great money, but really I was quite miserable. At the same time, right, in this river of life, started my family. So I've got at this point in time, a really young family, beautiful wife and kids, and really thinking about, what is it that I'm going to do? And I think, different from my father, who worked at 40 years from Chrysler, and different from what you guys will face, working for one company is probably not going to be your journey, I think, in life. It certainly wasn't that for mine. So at that point in time, I used my network, and I'll underscore the importance of having a network. So the Marine Corps network was very strong, was able to reach out to some friends, ultimately got a job at an organization called TACOM, Tank Automotive Command, where they managed the life cycle of military vehicles. And so that was super cool. I enjoyed the heck out of that, learned a lot from there, learned the trade and the trade of acquisitions, learned the defense trade, while simultaneously, by that point in time, I got back in the Marine Corps Reserve, right? So then I continued with my 5 years of active duty, ultimately getting 20 years in the reserves for a total of 25 years. So learning a lot in the corporate world, learning a lot in the Marine Corps world, kind of simultaneously. My wife and I had always strived to get back to Indiana, which is where I am now. We're in Indianapolis, very close with her family, and again, employed the Marine Corps network. Okay, so the importance of having good people you can talk to for many years, building relationships. Remember, every encounter with somebody is either positive or negative. The encounter you guys are having with me today, it's either going to be positive or negative. I hope it's positive, but you might leave this and say, man, that guy Mike was a goofball. But the hope in life is that all of the majority of your discussions are going to be, or encounters with people are going to be positive. So ultimately, employed the Marine Corps network to find an opportunity at Rolls-Royce. And it was really, at that point in time, I had felt like, gosh, I've really realized my dream, right? So my whole goal in life was to be in a corporate world, working for excellent company and delivering excellent products and services. And that's where I was, working with Professor Mitchell and many other awesome people. And so did that for 14 years, worked in sustainment and aftermarket, learned how to run a business, right? Simultaneously, while I was leading Marines, companies of Marines, 150 Marines, learned the art of leadership, which is certainly an art. And just a real quick tangent here. I'm a real strong believer in, you don't manage people, you lead people. You manage projects, you manage schedules, you manage budgets, you manage assets, and you lead people. So in the Marine Corps, I learned the art of leadership. And then at Rolls-Royce, I learned how to run a business. So there I am plugging away in my life and thinking, man, this is great. Life is good. Everything's going, as planned. Working my way up the corporate ladder. Wasn't as wise as Professor Mitchell, who was wise enough to realize that there's a lot more to learn in other companies. So sticking with the company, my whole goal in life was to stick with them. And then COVID changed the world. COVID changed the world in many ways. I'm sure everyone here on this call has been impacted positively or negatively. I would say mostly negative impact. And I just found myself kind of at odds with the company and had no idea how I got to that point in time. But there I was, Chris. All right. So I'm 48 years old. I've left Rolls-Royce. And I did a lot of self-reflection. Like I said, my whole goal in life was never to be a business owner or to be my own boss. That never occurred to me. But the day I left Rolls-Royce was when that switch flipped. And then I realized I could not work for anyone else but myself ever again. I was never going to work for that hard as I did for anyone else and make money for anyone else but me. So this is the context, Brian, that you talked about. All right. How did I figure out what I needed to, what I wanted to do? And I think, Anthony, you mentioned, the creativity, not figuring out what your idea was. That's how I am. I am not a creative person at all. I don't have a creative bone in my body, but I'm excellent at execution, right? So knowing what my strengths and weaknesses were, I started to look and figure out, what are the things that I wanted to do? So I was looking at all kinds of things. I was looking at franchises. I was looking at if you get an Amazon box delivered to your home, it's not an Amazon company or FedEx. It's an independent contractor. So I looked at those lines very seriously. I'm still very interested in it because you're buying a revenue stream immediately, and that's very attractive. So I like that a lot. And there was a couple things that were really important to me. One, you needed to have a high barrier to entry. I wanted to make sure that I was getting into something that not anybody could get into. So that was an important thing for me. It was a high barrier to entry. Two, I wanted to go to a space where I thought that excellent service and excellent commitment to excellence would help me carve out a niche in the marketplace. So I looked at a bunch of different franchises. I looked at a bunch of different businesses, and I kept coming back to portable storage, units moving and portable storage. It's a franchise that was founded in 2014 out of South Carolina. There was many things I liked about it. One, it was a very high barrier to entry. So in terms of the investment I've got in the company, it's significant. I'm not a swing for the fences kind of guy, but this was a swing for the fence. All the chips are in the middle sort of transaction. And I also liked the fact that it was a fairly simple operating model. So, I've got basically a handful of people, not a significant number of people that are working on my team. and then we're pulling in some decent amount of revenue per head that's working there. So it's been a wonderful journey, right? So I'm pleased to say it was, when you start a business and you put together a pro forma, which is of course your financial forecast, looking at spreadsheets, that's a scary endeavor. I will admit that there were many nights where I doubted myself, and I couldn't believe. There was many nights I'd be walking the dog with my wife, and we'd be talking to each other, and I would say, man, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe it. I can't believe I invested all of my life savings into this. And then there was other nights where we'd be walking the dog, and I would say, man, I'm so proud of myself for having the courage to do it. And so there was like this both sides. I was looking at this thing when there was still uncertainty. But what did it for me ultimately was, and I'll come back to this a little bit. So when I talk to a lot of people about the military, one of the common themes that I hear is, oh, you were a Marine. I almost went in the Army, or I almost became a Marine, or I almost did this. And that's kind of a bit of a story of regret in life. And every time I talk to someone that tells me that story, I feel bad for them. I wish that they could go back in time and make a different decision. And so whenever I get the chance, I talk to parents or I talk to kids, and the answer is, if they're interested in the military, the answer is yes. You just got to figure out which service is best for you. So as I was contemplating this big decision, this monumental life decision about owning a company, what I kept coming back to was that thought that I didn't want to live with regret. I wanted to, I could live with failure. I couldn't live with regret. So we did it. And so it's been a 3.5-year journey. I opened the business in 23, and I'm really glad to say that we are the #1 rated portable storage company in Indianapolis. We're one of the top rated in the franchise. And the key to success there is nothing special. I would say first and foremost, it's working harder than anybody else. Having a positive attitude and working hard. That isn't the panacea in life, but it's sure a good, great foundation for success in life. If you have a good attitude and you work hard, a lot of things can come. So we worked very hard. I was fortunate. I have a great general manager who works very hard with me. And the other thing I would say that really contributed to our success was honoring our commitments. Okay, so we made some pretty significant commitments to a lot of our restoration companies. So remediation, this kind of business requires like 24-hour service, and we committed to that. And so, there are times where I've had to get in the truck myself. I don't do it as much now. Get in a truck to deliver a container to someone's home that had a fire or a water hazard. And so having the ability to make these commitments and honor those commitments, that has helped perpetuate and really help us get additional business, right? So just delivering excellent service and being able to solve problems for clients has really helped us achieve some pretty difficult things. And the first goal in life in business, if there's any runners or bicyclists, the first goal in running a marathon is to finish the marathon, right? And then you worry about your time. That's the same thing with a business. The first goal in running a business is to not go bankrupt. And so when we got past that point of, okay, all right, this is good. We went from red to black. That was a good feeling. We're not going to go bankrupt. And then you start worrying about, what your time is. How much time do I have on the clock? And then you start worrying about how much money you're making. So, we're past that point of worrying about bankruptcy and really going to the point of, all right, now we're making some money. How do we tweak things a little bit so we can increase profits? And really, ultimately, profits and revenue is simply a function of how well you're delighting your customers. So we've got a very customer-centric focus of effort in getting things done. So during this whole river of life's throwing at crazy plans that you don't plan on. And this is context, and I think it's good to share personal stuff so you know who you're talking to. And 3 years ago, while I opened up the business, I was diagnosed with cancer, stage 3 colorectal cancer. And if you guys are believers in God as I am, faith person, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just left Rolls-Royce. I opened up a business. My daughter is graduating high school, and then I get diagnosed with cancer. I'm like, oh my gosh, God, how much can I handle? I'm not sure I can handle this. But by the grace of God, I was able to handle it and went to Memorial Sloan Kettering. That's their symbol in the lower right-hand corner. They're like the New York Yankees of cancer research. So I went through immunotherapy and fortunately I'm healthy as a horse now. So I share that with you. If anyone in your life, I'm sure many people have been impacted by cancer. I would encourage you to look at, different ways of treatments. So MSK in particular is really looking for different ways to treat cancer. And so, fast forward to today, as I was on my journey of opening my, my first business, I decided to get crazy and open up a second business. And I think, Professor Mitchell and I are not done. There's probably, and that's maybe the one of the key learning things is as you become a business owner, other opportunities kind of present themselves to you. And that's kind of what happened. So I started a small consulting group that I really focus my expertise on helping small businesses navigate their way through Department of Defense. So my life today is basically a 50-50 split between units and volition. I do a lot of business development for the units business. Our general manager runs the day-to-day operations. In fact, he would tell you, hey, Mike, stay out of operations. The business does pretty well when I'm out of it. When we make mistakes, it's because I've made them. And then I'm working for some of my clients. So it's been a nice journey there to get to there. So I'm going to jump, hopefully if I can do this right.
I believe you muted yourself.
Oh, thank you. How long have I been on mute for?
I think it was just when you switched that slide. I think you pressed a button or something.
Operator, thank you for keeping me honest.
No
Yeah,
problem.
Jesus, thank you. Jorge, was there a question or were you just telling me I was on mute too? Okay. So I guess I'm at the point now in my life where I have some nuggets, perhaps a little bit of nuggets of wisdom that I can share with you. And this is just my personal context. I'm an aspiring Christian. I'm not the best Christian. I'm trying to be. I try to be a good father. I try to be a good husband. I'm not the best. My wife just said to me the other day, "Hey, we've been married for 24 years, and I can't believe you're doing that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a guy." And then friends, right? So that's my foundation. Try to live my life by these core virtues. You may recognize these. These are kind of stoic virtues of courage, wisdom, justice, and temperance. Not always successful in living my life like that, but I try to. Always trying to do the best that you can. And so let me just talk about some lessons learned, I guess, in my journey, both as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and just over the course of my life. It's super important to have plans. We spend a lot of time in the military, specifically in the Marine Corps, doing a Marine Corps planning process. Very important to document and look at your 5 and 10 year plan. Put that on paper. It's amazing. It's amazing if you put it on paper to look back and say, oh my gosh, look what I accomplished. So I would definitely encourage you to put your plans on paper. And then also recognize that you can put your plans on paper and life is going to throw some curveballs at you. Things are going to change. So I would just say you be flexible. You have a plan, go with it, but also be aware your plans are going to change because there's going to be a lot in life that's outside of your control. When things happen to you, it's never as good or as bad as it seems. So even like the most difficult thing that you guys are going to go through, it's never as bad as you think it is. And at the high times, it's never going to be as good as it is. So try to have some balance and appreciating like things that go on in your life. And that's true also in business, right? So there were some times where we went through some very challenging things and you think, oh my gosh, this is imminent failure, but it's not. There's another day to recover. So obstacles, and this was one of the things I've learned on my journey. When you do get those bad situations, those obstacles become opportunities. Had I not left Rolls-Royce, I would have never had the opportunities to do the things that I'm doing now. And I wouldn't trade where I am now for anything in the world. But at that point in time, when I left Rolls-Royce, I was not in a good space. And it was a very difficult time for my family and I. But eventually that became a blessing for us. Going down this list, if you are comfortable in life, you're not doing enough. I would say get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, that's when growth occurs, right? I had a pretty good idea of what I needed to do to run the business, but there was a lot I didn't know. So you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you're in a leadership position, really important for you as a leader to look at the chaos of things that are going on in life or at work. And as a leader, your job is to bring order to that chaos, to be the calm in the storm. So again, when things are good or bad, be that calm in the storm and bring order to that chaos. So my personality type is a little bit of a perfectionist, and it's a weakness I've had to overcome. And what I've learned along that journey is it's better, to do something good than to wait for perfection. So, my new model is, perfection is the enemy of good enough. If you wait for everything to be perfect, if you wait for the perfect time to start your family or to have kids or to start your business, you're going to miss that opportunity. So when I started my business, it most certainly wasn't the perfect time, but learning how to deal with imperfection, I think, has been a valuable lesson that I've learned along the way to kind of get to a point where good enough is good enough, and seeking excellence and trying to improve every day. And then of course, and I think these two go together, dress rehearsals and regret. There's no dress rehearsal in life. Again, I told you that story about how I made that decision to ultimately get in and buy my business. I didn't want to live with regret, and I would encourage you, if you're contemplating owning your own business, to take that step. Don't wait for the perfect opportunity. And ultimately, when you're looking at owning a business, the person that you probably trust more than anyone else, maybe, hopefully, is yourself. So who better than to place a bet on than you, right? So bet on you. Brian talked about it when we started it. The relationships matter more than anything. And I would say, earning the trust and confidence of the community here in Indianapolis. I deal with about 60% commercial, 40% residential. Earning the confidence of my commercial clients has helped bring other commercial clients. Developing those relationships has been really meaningful. Again, every interaction you have with somebody, it's positive or negative. It's never neutral, right? So, and you never know when these relationships are going to come back to you. I'm finding a lot of opportunities that I have right now are from relationships that I've had 10 or 15 years ago. So you never know when you're going to have the opportunity to either seek help from someone that you knew or to provide somebody with help from somebody that you knew. So just be mindful of that. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Okay. There's a lot you don't know. There's a lot I don't know. One of the things that I did when I started was I benchmarked with a bunch of different cities. Columbus, Ohio, which happens to be the worst city in the world, is just due east of me. But the manager, the owner and units of Columbus is one of my best friends. I love him. He's a great mentor. And I just watched what he did and learned from what he did and talked to him about, hey, Steve, I had this problem happen. And he's like, Mike, I've had that problem before. And so just don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. And with that, kind of goes along with that, ego and feedback go a long ways too. It's like when someone's giving you feedback, clear as kind, especially if it's coming from a place or from someone that loves you or cares about you. If they're giving you that tough pill to swallow and they're giving you that constructive criticism, they care about you. So being open to feedback, this was a lesson I learned running the business from my general manager, helping me become a better leader. As much as you think you know about business and leadership, sometimes you fall short. And there were some things that I was falling short on. And he gave me some really kind, loving feedback to help me become a better leader. And so that was a good ego check, to check my ego at the door and to be willing to receive kindly that feedback from someone that cares about me. So I would encourage you to do that. So those were some of the lessons learned along my path. And I'll get into some other, I think one of you guys talked about a book, and I got a little bit of a fun book story here. or book wisdom to share with you. But from the Four Agreements, if you haven't read this book, it is probably the top book I've ever read. It's a book on philosophy, if that's your sort of thing. Be impeccable with your word. The author talks about how you would never talk to anyone else the way you talk to yourself. So start being more kind to yourself. Here's the tough one. Don't take things personally. Everyone on this call takes things personally. I do every day. If you get to the point where someone offends you and you don't take it personally, that's when you find peace. Don't make assumptions about people. Like, you're telling yourself a story about what people are doing. You probably don't have the full story. So be curious and stay open. And ultimately, and this is where you're going to fall short on all three of those. At the end of the day, always do your best in anything you do. Your best is going to vary from day to day. You're going to be sick. You're going to be hungry. Things are going to happen. Things are going to go on in life. But always do your best, even if it's not your best. The best that you can be. Do your best on that day. All right. I think I'm coming close to the end.
I think you're on mute again.
Operator error. As soon as I switch it, I'm doing something wrong. Thanks for keeping me honest. This has been the fun. The fun of owning a business is, in the city of Indianapolis. And so this is a picture of our containers that are at Dick's in one of the cities. They've got the highest retail, but they just don't have enough space. And so we're a great solution for them. So earning their trust, earning the trust and confidence of all of these significant organizations across the city of Indianapolis, where I'm, very confident if you went and talked to any one of these people and they talked about units, they would say, oh yeah, we're a trusted partner. And these are things, these are relationships that I would never have had I stayed in the corporate world. So I'm really grateful. And this was a big surprise. I didn't realize how much I would enjoy developing these important relationships, including, by the way, with the Indianapolis Colts, even though I'm a Lions fan. Don't tell them that. But that's been a lot of fun too. And that part was a great blessing. And then finally, and I'll share this, you probably didn't ask for the book list, but here it is anyway. These are some of the books that have shaped my life that are really important to me right now. If you're a reader, I'm a big firm believer in leaders are readers, and you guys are all going to be leaders. Lead from where you are. The more you lead, the more you read and learn from others that have been in situations where you're going to be in over life, the better you're going to be. You're putting together your toolbox of leadership. So most of the ones on top are really kind of like a little bit philosophical, right? And then some on the bottom, Bet on You was actually written by a good friend of mine, Angie Morgan, who was in the Marine Corps with me. And if you know anything about the Marine Corps, you know it's very male dominated. And she's an excellent Marine and a very good friend. And, interesting, as I was, I had already made my whole mantra was bet on me. I'm going to bet on me as I was making this decision to buy this business. And she came out with this book and I read it after I'd already made this decision and just resonated with it. Just to give me that affirmation that, hey, who better to bet on than you in life? So, and I think, Professor Mitchell, I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully I didn't fall on my face and fail completely. I'm certainly welcome to take any questions you may have.
Well, first of all, thank you, Mike, for sharing the journey. What I want to capture here, like we do at the end of every lecture, is the important points. The one I keep stressing to all the students, and especially for engineers who are often, as we all know, for better or worse, the type of people who like to put their head down and really focus on the job to be done, and sometimes aren't known for building great relationships inside of a business, or because they're so kind of problem focused and inward focused is the kind of polite way to say it, more introverted, right? But you will find that the people that climb the highest in the organizations you join are people that bring all those skills to the table, can solve the problem, can put their head down, can focus and do the engineering work, and can make great relationships. And what you'll find is that will translate extremely well to later in life to open more doors for you. And then secondarily, this idea that whatever plan you think you have, God is laughing at you while
That's
you're
right.
asleep, and in moments of unaware of the machine moving around you, sometimes in your favor and sometimes very much not in your favor. So like Mike talked about, staying flexible, staying open-minded, these are every bit as important as an entrepreneurship as the idea that you come up with, as the way you execute, the ability to pivot, the ability to change directions, the ability to stay nimble, the ability to listen to what people are actually telling you and take criticism, not as a personal attack against you, but as someone who actually cares enough that wants to see you succeed. And they're criticizing you often because they want to see you do better. These are things that Mike and I have taken decades to learn, right? They don't come naturally right out of the gate when you're an undergrad, I promise you. So I wanted to reiterate some of those because they're such valuable lessons for both entrepreneurship, and just life in general. And with that, open it to any questions about Mike and his journey before we let you all get back to another wonderful Arizona summer night.
I just want to say I love the book recommendations. They were great. And I have another book based on relationships that really helped me. I read it, I think, after high school, how to win friends and influence people. That one's a great one too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Yuritsa. Thanks for that feedback.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a great point. Leaders are readers. At any one point, I'm reading one fiction and one nonfiction book. And if you're not doing that throughout your life, the people who are will lap you, because no one person can capture all the world's knowledge. And fiction, especially, to me at least, in the world that we live in, that is being so driven by AI and so driven by the algorithm, to lose yourself for 45 minutes in a great piece of fiction is the ability to connect with, in my mind, like all of our ancestors who lived in the 17 and 1800s. That's how they entertained themselves for centuries. There was no books. There was no TVs. Here we got a great question. Jason Etheridge, how did you get your first customers?
And the old fashioned way. So, even before we started, I was calling all of the restoration companies, trying to earn their trust and confidence. So really cold calling, knocking on doors. And people buy from who they know and they trust. And so trying to earn their trust was important. So that was one way. That was a commercial. And then we do the SEO Google thing. So just getting out there, and then word spread. Good question.
Yeah, great question. For those of you who don't know, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you are going to be in sales. You are going to be in sales. I've worked with some really, really talented engineers who were, again, naturally introverted, and they had to overcome that and be comfortable with calling people they didn't know and asking people, do you like it? Yes. Can you give me money for it? Yes. Like, that's what you must do to be an entrepreneur. If asking people for money is uncomfortable for you, you will struggle as an entrepreneur.
Let me just add on to that. I would say your whole life, like you're selling it, whether you like it or not. Every time you're doing an interview, you're selling yourself on your ability to do that job. So the sooner you can get comfortable in your skin with selling, the better off you're going to be in life.
Well said. Well, with that, unless we have any more questions, I'm going to let everyone go. Mike, amazing journey that you've been on in life. What you'll find, students, is in 20 years, you're going to end up having a similar story to Mike, because that's just the way life goes. Hopefully not having to overcome cancer like he did. And if you do, hopefully having access to world-class care like he had to make that incredible recovery. But this is the journey we all go on, ladies and gentlemen. We set out one goal, and life just takes us in all these different directions. And you got to stay open-minded, pivot, and keep learning. Thank you all for joining, and we will see you all next Wednesday night, the same time, same place.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks very much.